Hello, this is Austin. This movie, Rambles, was recorded about 2 months back in early August, late July, I think. I just haven't gotten around to edit it until like early September, late August. So that's why I'm referring to the date that it is. So here's the movie Rambles. Thank you very much. Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, and every other beautiful individual and entity, my name is MaximumAustin, and today we're going to talk about Captain Underpants, the first movie, the first epic movie. Oops. Can't forget that title. It is a major animated release of June, probably the least notable, but it is one of the animated releases of the year 2017. I think you're familiar with it. It's terrible. The year is terrible. No. And most certainly of the month. There were like three animated movies, big budget ones that came out, and this one was probably the least notable in terms of like, I don't know how to put it, just like, hey, Cars, hey, Despicable Me, hey, Captain Underpants. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's just a little hidden thing. I think it got caught in the hype of the two ones of I think it got caught in the hype of like Cars 3 and Despicable Me 3, and as far as what your kids care about, I guess. So anywho, what to say about Captain Underpants? If you were in school, like in maybe like the mid to late 90s and early 2000s, you might be familiar with Captain Underpants. It was a series of books, not really picture books, but like illustrations with prose, I guess. There was no it wasn't really like a comic book. It's just it was just a series of books about these two creative elementary school kids, George and Harold, and how they would get into trouble, and how they apparently hypnotized their grumpy school principal into a superhero, a fictional superhero they created. So and obviously they have to deal with that junk. They have to watch, and they get on so many crazy adventures with other toilet themed, juvenile themed villains, such as Dr. Diaper, Turbo Toilet, the Lunch Ladies from Space, and other classic villains. And maybe learn a lesson along the way on how actions do impact people, and how you need to take responsibility, and just it's sort of that kind of fable, I feel. The film adaptation that you're hearing me talk about is actually solid enough. I really dug it. It is a film that I would recommend, maybe if you have kids, or like maybe you're a fan of animation or just fan of books. Of the books, I would recommend going to see it. And I know this is ultra timely. It's been like a month. It's almost been 2 months since it came out. But you know what? I just wanted to talk about it for reasons that may not be clear right now, but someday they will be. Again, refer to the intro I put in here. It's actually been about 3 months. This is like Dreamworks' I don't know how many films they made, but it's definitely, even though it was made by Dreamworks, it doesn't really fall into most of the tropes. Like, it was advertised really differently when compared to like this year's Boss Baby, which might as well be Dreamworks marketing porn at this point, because like, hey, we have a baby, he's gonna make funny faces, and we have Alec Baldwin, and the animation looks kind of on the cheaper end, and fighting dirty jokes, yeah. But this one's really stylized. I dug how it was advertised, sort of like obviously the trailers, but also like the poster. Most of the promotional material is just like not really all that. There's no brow. You know what I mean? There's no Dreamworks brow on Captain Underpants or anybody that I've seen. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone's looking great. Like, I think the poster is like the shot of like the underpants of like a bat signal, sort of like a parody of Batman, which is actually funny and actually kind of different from movie posters nowadays, especially for kids and animation movies, because holy crap, there's like a rhythm to them. right now. And I just love how the film looks. It does look like an animated version of the illustrations of Dave Plickly's illustrations from the books. Like, they're the same design, sort of same aesthetic, sort of that children's doodle thing. And I think fans of the books will be quite pleased. And something a little bit lighthearted. Also, in terms of superhero fiction, and I think the voice cast is really good for this kind of movie. Ed Helms as Principal Crump and Captain Underpants, he plays it really well. I'm actually kind of impressed. And lots of funny. Nick Kroll does a nice jammin' accent of Professor Poopy Pants, which is great. Everyone was fantastic throughout the board. Really have no complaints. I thought I was not going to like Kevin Hart's George, judging from the trailers, and I'm like thinking like, wow, that's kind of weird. Like, why are you making this like 10-year-old kid sound like Kevin Hart? I'm Kevin Hart. That's messed up, man. And who is a funny comedian, don't get me wrong, he is. But I'm just like thinking like, why do you need to? I know why you need an adult to voice this character, but Kevin Hart did a good job too. I really wasn't. I was taken out of the movie a bit, but he did fine. Like, that was a main concern for me, and also how it was advertised. Again, with like the music, with like George and Harold going LMFAO into the school. Oh yeah. So it's well animated. It does have a hint of sophistication to it. Sort of George and Harold learning that, you know, these teachers, like the people in their lives are still people. The teachers are people, and sort of learning how to be empathetic with their principal, who's a grump, but also they take him back to his house when he's a Captain Underpants, and he's like lives alone, and he's kind of lives a depressing life. So that's always a great thing to teach kids, or just anybody really, just how to be empathetic and how to just learn to live with one another and sort of feel for one another. Some of the humor doesn't work, but I was impressed by the humor. There really wasn't a whole lot of jokes that made my audience laugh. Obviously, it was an audience full with like a few kids. It was like a smaller theater. I saw this like a month after it came out in theaters, and they weren't really laughing at the jokes. I was laughing at some of the jokes, but they weren't. It's a funny movie, but I don't know, dude. Lots of wordplay for a film called Captain Underpants. So it's really it's a standard kids animated feature, but it's a decent one, and I don't know, I'm pleased with it. For those wondering, it is kind of like an adaptation of like the first, second, and fourth books. If your kids are asking for it for like Christmas, or asking for like a Blu-ray, or it comes up on Netflix, I would recommend watching it. I would recommend watching it once it comes out on Netflix. It's worth a watch, I feel, because there was a lot of, compared to other Dreamworks stuff, there was artistic stuff put into here, and I'm really satisfied with it. I think it suffers from like a lower budget for an animated movie, like not Sausage Party low, but like I think it was like it took 80 million to produce this film compared to like Boss Baby, but and even though the movie feels stylized, it feels small because of that and of its budget, but it doesn't have to be like this big thing. So yeah. But I was really pleased with it, and you know, if you come across it, it's worth one watch. I'd recommend giving it a look, just for like having 90s book nostalgia being brought to like the screens in 2017. So I recommend it very much, especially if you have kids. I think they'll like it. They'll be entertained enough. It's sort of like Wallace and Gromit, where like they're not laughing, but they're entertained. So yeah. So I do recommend it. If Dave Pickley wants to work with Dreamworks a little bit more on Captain Underpants movies, I would be game for it. This was serviceable. So yeah. Anywho, I think that's enough. I have to say, I'm Maximum Austin, and until next time, remember to keep being confident and you enjoy your day. Underwear.